Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, asks the hard-hitting question, what if Dune was cool, but also really stupid? Hello Flickering Myth family, and welcome to our channel. My name is EJ, and in this video, we are going to be breaking down and reviewing a brand new Mad Max movie. Yes, we're out of the main franchise, we're in our first Mad Max spin-off, and we are talking about Furiosa. Holy smokes, I have not been this confused by a movie in quite some time. I walked out of my press screening and I said, I don't think I like that movie. And then I was in my Uber on my way home and I said, you know what, maybe I did like it. And now sitting here about to make this video, I'm still confused. This movie is okay. Like, that's the bare minimum I'm going to give it. It's okay. It's not going to be the life-changing experience that Fury Road was, but it's not like a complete waste of time. There was things that frustrated me. We'll talk about it in a moment. But overall, I thought Furiosa was an okay summer blockbuster. It, to me, has the problem of being way too messy, way too chaotic to be a masterpiece. But it's also, like, too cool, too, like, fun and weird to be a bad movie. It lives in this okay state, which I think actually it falls to me where of the original Mad Max, the Beyond Thunderdome, the Road Warrior, those movies kind of fit where I think Furiosa is. It's not bad, it's not great. Where I think, like, Fury Road and the first Mad Max film are actual great pieces of cinema. Those are, like, the life-changing experiences, those moments in time where we, really, they stick with us forever. People still quote Fury Road as one of their favorite action movies, where Furiosa, I don't think this is going to have that same kind of legacy, the same kind of impact, but I loved seeing all the little weirdos that lived in the wasteland. Truly, every time they introduced a weird little freaky dude, I was just like, well, I love this person, I want them, like, I want them to be in this movie forever. So I do enjoy this universe. I think George Miller is one hell of a director. At times, he reminds me of Zack Snyder, who's one of my personal favorites, because he is so bombastic, so weird, so doing his own damn thing. You cannot get George Miller to do a proper frame rate in this movie. Everything's so choppy and weird. You cannot get this man to tell a straight up, like, straightforward narrative. No, he has to do his weird kind of storytelling. I love that. Again, we don't get filmmakers like a George Miller too often that is just bold, brash, and could belong in the trash, to quote SpongeBob, but also who does their own thing, who just feels wholly unique. There is not another movie like Furiosa. As much as it feels like another Mad Max movie, it even feels original in itself. So I give so much credit for being a fun, fresh, new kind of vibe, but also at the same time, the movie is way too messy, has way too many problems, and I also think it suffers from, does this even need to exist? As you may know, Furiosa is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, but at times, this is a prequel of a prequel. We're spending way more time with a young Furiosa, I mean very young, before we even get Anya Taylor-Joy in the movie to be the major selling point that she should be. I felt like I spent more time with a younger Furiosa than with actual adult Furiosa. It was a bit confusing for me, so that's where I kind of struggle with, but why? And then they introduce a character in here that's like the love interest who feels like a fake generic version of Max, and I'm like, but why? Like, there were so many questions I had of like, okay, so what are we doing here? What's the point of this? I think all movies should be made. I love George Miller, but I was truly like, okay, so we're gonna end the movie kind of where we begin it, so why not bring back Charlee? It's just confusing. I don't understand why they told this story specifically, but at the same time, I appreciate this because the little freaks, the little weirdos, I thought Furiosa is an interesting character, and I like her moral grayness. I think in this world where everything is it's hard. Most people are bad people. I liked her character because she stood out as a good figure, but she's not perfect. She's going to do some gross, chaotic things, especially in her path for vengeance. I love the vengeance story here. I love, Chris Hemsworth's evil Demeter guy and all that. I love that he was just getting her to be as bad as he was and watching her sink to his level, and she does her own stuff. I thought that was an interesting, compelling story. So again, I understood why they wanted to tell this story, but I think there's a lot of narrative choices that kind of hinder it from, again, hitting those different levels. I think we spent way too much time with a younger Furiosa. I think the fake Mad Max that we had was a complete waste of time. Every time I spent time seeing this dude, I was like, I don't know his name. I don't know the point of him being here. He looks like Max. He isn't Max. And then you know what I mean? It's just one of those characters, one of those moments in the film that I think really distracts, where I'm like, I could have got more of the Joe dude that we saw in Fury Road. I could have spent more time with adult Furiosa. There was times where this movie kind of diverts to a different path that I don't know why we're there. Okay, cool. Oh, we're in the Bullet Land now. It's a new place for a new set piece. It just felt like we were driving to locations to have a set piece, and then when we leave that set piece, very video game, which is good or bad. So again, I think this movie could have had small tweaks to that script that could have made it a more seamless experience. But again, overall, I appreciate the weirdness, the wildness of the wasteland, and how original everything felt, even though this still feels very George Miller in all of its good and all of its bad. To touch on the comment that I made earlier about this being like Dune, but for cool people, I have to say, I stand by that, because I do think this has all the elements that works for Dune, that desert setting, that like apocalyptic wasteland where we don't understand the politics, the who's the good, who's the bad. I think that works, and I think they're very similar in that way, but Dune is so sterile, so cold, it's very clinical, it's very science-filled, it's emotional, has a religious aspect. Here, I love that this movie is just like, look at the little freaky weird people being weird and being gross. And there isn't that level of maturity, which again, I kind of call this stupid as well. There isn't that level of maturity that Dune has. But I think Mad Max also, it's not a dumb franchise. They're trying to do social commentary. They're trying to talk about things. But I love the weird, frenetic nature of it, the chaotic. I love this universe far more than I like most universes. That's my biggest thing compared to this Dune. I don't care about the Bene Gesserits and all the politics there, the very prequel space politics that we get in Dune. Here, it's not really about that. It's truly about the adventures that we feel and we find ourselves in with these characters. And I think that's the more compelling way. It feels way more character-driven than it is the social commentary, the messiahness of Dune. I love that this is, let's follow Max, let's follow Furiosa, and let's get their stories through this really tortured, this really horrible land. And I think that's what makes this more compelling and more easy to digest. Is it as intelligent? God, no. This movie has a guy named Rectus in it. You know what I mean? This movie is definitely sleazy and gross, but I also think that's an edge that we're missing from a lot of the blockbusters. A Dune, even the Marvel movies sometimes. They're so cold, they're so sexless, and I don't mean literal naked people hooking up, but there's no oomph. There's no cool factor. This movie is cool. I think this, bare bones, I kept thinking of like, wow, they made something that's weird, that's fresh, that's different, that has all these like interesting little characters that we may not get backstory on. Infamously, I always think of those weird people in Fury Road that are like in the swamps, they had the big arms and stuff. Those people are awesome. We don't need to know anything about them. I don't need to spend 55 minutes in their world of getting a backstory about them like we would feel like we would do in a Dune movie. No, they're like, look at that cool thing. Isn't that cool? That's just going to exist there. That's world building. The world building in this movie is far superior to most blockbusters, and I'll give them credit. Is it a weird world? Is it a smart world? No, it's not smart. It's weird, but it works for what it works, and I do find myself more engaged by this universe than most others. Well, everyone, that is it for my review of Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. I like it. It's fine. I thought I was going to love it. I was really hoping to get like a 4.5 star out of this, being like, wow, life-changing, this was the banger of the year, but it's okay. I think the Mad Max fans are going to be very enthusiastic about it. The audience I saw it with clapped at the end. They were so happy. But for the most part, I think this is going to have not as strong reviews as Fury Road. It's not going to have that lasting impact, but it's still not a bad way to beat the heat in the summer and going to see a fun, explosive movie like this that's really weird, kind of shocking, in your face. I appreciate that. So, yep, that is my feelings on Furiosa. What did you think of this review? What do you think of this movie? Share your thoughts down in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy, and make sure you guys subscribe to Flickering Myth, because we make videos like this every single week. Thank you guys all who are already subscribed. You're awesome. Now let's talk about Furiosa. I was going to say Dune. Let's talk about Furiosa right down below.